Coming up on Network Africa, at least 6 people, including senior police officers, killed after a suicide bomb attack in Somali capital, Mogadishu. Over 100 former peacekeepers from Ethiopia seek international protection and asylum in Sudan, lost. More than 1,000 migrants arrived the Italian island of Lampedusa in the space of few hours. Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Layo Adegoke. Let's begin with stories that made headlines over the weekend.
On Sunday, Chad's military claimed victory in its weeks-long battle with northern rebels that led to the death of President Idris Deby on the battlefield. The rebel group, Front for Change and Concord in Chad, did not respond to a request for comment. The transitional military authorities have previously said they have defeated the rebels, only for fighting to continue. The fighting and broader political instability are being closely watched. Chad is a key power in Central Africa and a long-time Western ally against Islamist militants across the Sahel region. Crowds in the capital, N'Djamena, cheered on Sunday as soldiers returned from the front line in a column of tanks and armored vehicles. On Friday, hundreds of Somali forces who backed the opposition began returning to their barracks after reaching an agreement with the Prime Minister following clashes over the tenure of the president. Somali lawmakers voted on Saturday, May the 1st, to overturn the 2-year presidential term extension they had approved last month after the violence stirred fears of all-out war between heavily armed troops for and against the president. The agreement to end the months-long standoff included demands that opposition allied forces return to the barracks within 48 hours, that soldiers be apolitical, and a promise that soldiers who supported the opposition would not be penalized. Chinese medics in the Democratic Republic of Congo have started to vaccinate United Nations personnel. At the request of the UN Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, the medical unit of the 24th Chinese Peacekeeping Force to the country has begun the preparation for the vaccination program, including to set up 14 vaccination sites since the beginning of this year. The first batch of COVID-19 vaccines arrived in DRC on April the 28th. The medics started immediately to receive training concerning the specific procedures and the requirement for the vaccination.
So our stories for today: a suicide bomber has killed at least 6 people, including senior police officers, at a police station in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. The bomber detonated explosives at the Waberi District Police Station, killing Police Commander Major Ahmed Abdullahi Bashane. Another senior police officer, Major Abdi Basid Mohamud, who was the former deputy commander of a division of the Banadi Regional Police, was also killed in the bombing. Those wounded in the attack also included senior police officers. While no group has claimed responsibility for the attack, however, the Al-Qaeda-allied Al-Shabaab militants have in the past carried out suicide bombings in Mogadishu and other parts of central and southern Somalia. Well, at least 8 people, including a Burundian army official, were killed on Sunday night along the Bujumbura-Gitega Road around Muramumve area. Local media outlets are reporting it as an ambush, while police say it was a robbery incident. However, eyewitnesses say nothing was stolen from the victims. According to iBurundi news website, a colonel who had served with the United Nations mission in Somalia and a central bank employee were also among those killed. Several other people were injured and vehicles set on fire. Still talking security, a former U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Robin Sanders, has thrown her support behind America's decision not to move the U.S. Africa Command, otherwise known as AFRICOM, to Africa, citing cost of relocation being too high. While highlighting Nigeria and Africa's unwillingness to have had the command headquartered in Africa. She said being in Stuttgart, Germany, never hindered the command's efforts on the continent. She also emphasized a multilateral approach to fighting insurgency in Nigeria.
Having a headquarters in Nigeria, the time to move all of that to Nigeria or anywhere on the continent at this point just doesn't make a lot of strategic sense, in the sense that it takes away from the time of working with you on the actual issues on the ground, instead of us spending months and months to move headquarters. And then, of course, there is the cost factor. And then thirdly, in my view, is what happens 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Do we have to move again? So I'm not in the corner of moving AFRICOM, even though initially I was very much a supporter, a decade ago, of the headquarters being on the continent. But at that time, the outcry against it was just so heavy. And so it ended up going elsewhere. The question is, what do we do now? Because the resources and the equipment and the advising and the intelligence sharing, despite the difference of viewpoint on whether or not we blocked an arms sale, and there are other reasons for that that will take a lot more time to explain here. Let's say we take that piece out of it. We still were there to help Nigeria. And I think that the challenges is that the insurgents, not just in Nigeria, but you could look at Syria, you could look at, even Iraq. The insurgent groups have always been slightly ahead of us in where they want to go and how they plan to do that. And we are catching up on that a lot better than we were even 5 or 6 years ago. But I think that the fact that they can morph so quickly into doing different things that we don't even imagine they can do, I think is a real challenge. So we've got to get ahead of them in terms of, what is the next step? What is the next horrible thing that they could possibly do, and get ahead of that in order to be able to combat that.
You can watch more of Ambassador Sanders' interview on Diplomatic Channel, which airs 7:30 p.m. today, Monday 10th, right here on Channels Television. To other stories now, a Coptic Christian monk who was convicted over the 2018 killing of the head of an ancient Egyptian desert monastery has been hanged. Bishop Epiphanios was found belonged to death in July 2018 at St. Macarius Monastery in the Western Desert. Another monk convicted for his role in the crime was sentenced to life in prison. The case shocked Egypt's Coptic community, the largest Christian minority in the Middle East. The monks were said to have killed the abbot of the monastery in the plains of Wadi al-Natron, northwest of Cairo, because of unspecified differences. The United Nations says over 100 former peacekeepers from Ethiopia have sought international protection and have applied for asylum in Sudan. The peacekeepers had been part of the recently closed UN mission in Darfur. Now, this comes after other Ethiopian peacekeepers, originally from the conflict-hit Tigray region, refused to return to Ethiopia out of fear of persecution. There is increasing concern over allegations of atrocities committed during the 6-month conflict in Tigray. The UN says instead of returning home when their mission ended in the Darfur region, around 120 Ethiopian peacekeepers applied for asylum in Sudan. Now, this development is likely to be linked to the ethnic tensions that have deepened in Ethiopia as a result of the conflict in the northern Tigray region. Sudanese journalist Mohamed Alamin joins us now for more on this. Thank you for speaking to us on the program. What more can you tell us about these former peacekeepers from Ethiopia that are seeking international protection and also applying for asylum in Sudan?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I was asking what more you can tell us about the former peacekeepers from Ethiopia. What more can you tell us about them seeking international protection in Sudan?
Okay, much appreciated for this opportunity. Yeah, actually, it's not just about the recent 100 Ethiopian soldiers that seek asylum in Sudan. Since the Tigray war erupted like 6 months ago, thousands of Ethiopian military forces from different components and factions, fighting in Ethiopia, from the militias to the of Amhara and Tigray, and the government forces are now in force and back, crossing the border into Sudan and back into Eritrea. It become like a long guerrilla war of the tactic that the Tigray is using now. And it mainly depends on now the government of Sudan. I mean, this is another important factor, that the government of Sudan have to express good willingness towards the region, because if Sudan is opening the border in front of these militias, the war will go and continue in Ethiopia. And Sudan itself now is fallen in long clashes on the border in Gadarif and Blue Nile states, and also near the Ethiopian dam in Gumuz region in Ethiopia. So there is a lot of factors of overlapping between this local dynamic inside Ethiopia, and the interaction between Sudan and Ethiopia itself regarding the many issues of disputes.
Yes, regarding this Tigray conflict, it seems like Sudan has a lot on its plate, especially with the refugees from that conflict. But what is the Sudanese government saying? Are they willing to receive, these peacekeepers and give them what they want? Tell us, what is the bilateral relationship with Ethiopia concerning this issue?
Yeah. Let me say the number of Ethiopian refugees in general in Sudan, especially in the eastern Sudan, is not less than 100,000 people so far. The people are still crossing the border according to the situation on the other side of the border inside Ethiopia. So the United Nations has actually provided a lot of humanitarian assistance to those people, like shelters and etc. So, but for the military forces that cross the border, there is a kind of coordination actually between the two governments in this regard. But the control of this long border by the both government itself to stop the crossing of rebels, some other criminal groups, and there is wide kind of human trafficking and illegal migration in that area. So the long border is really difficult to control in that place.
All right then, Mohammed Alamin, Sudanese journalist, thank you for your reporting on our program.
Yes, for those 100.
Still ahead on the program. Nigerian photographers are spreading hope amid this coronavirus pandemic by creating portraits for a low-income neighborhood. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Kenya's health ministry plans to redistribute at least 200,000 doses of unused COVID-19 vaccines. The country's health minister, Mutahi Kagwe, says the vaccines would be taken to cities or counties where the uptake is high to prevent wastage, because the country cannot afford to have the jabs expire in the stores. Kenya expects to record an average vaccine wastage rate of 10% or less. In the case of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine made by the Serum Institute of India, one vial can be used to vaccinate at most 10 people. Or the World Health Organization says vials should be discarded either 6 hours later or at the end of the immunization session, or else the remaining doses go to waste and have to be destroyed. More than 916,000 people have been immunized out of the 1.2 million doses received in February. Away from COVID-19 now, over 1,000 migrants have landed on the Italian island of Lampedusa in the space of a few hours on Sunday. According to local media, one boat alone was carrying almost 400 men, women, and children. The island's mayor, Toto Martello, said he believed the rise in arrivals coincided with the good weather. Lampedusa is one of the main arrival ports for people wanting to reach Europe, many of them from Africa. More boats were spotted off the coast nearby Malta, with Charity Alarm Phone saying they needed assistance. Here in West Africa, Ghanaians have taken anti-government protests online after a court ruling barred them from participating in an in-person gathering. People have been sharing photos of themselves holding placards listing the changes they want in the country using the hashtag #FixMotherGhana. A group of activists had attempted to hold the protests on the ground in the capital on Sunday, but police blocked them after a court injunction. Now, Ghanaians are calling out their leaders for not initiating development projects and also protesting against the high unemployment and poor rendering of public services. Joining us now is Benjamin Akakwo, Joy News TV correspondent, for more on this. Thank you, Benjamin, for speaking to us. Let's begin with the court's reason for barring this protest. It is the fundamental human right of the citizens to protest, isn't it?
Well, it is, but let me just start by saying that I host the morning show on Joy News Television, just to clarify the designation. But it is. Fundamentally, when you look at the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, Article 21D specifically talks about the freedom of assembly, the freedom to embark on protestations or demonstrations. So that is guaranteed by the Constitution of Ghana. But we must also put this in context. On the back of COVID-19, of course, there have been certain protocols that have been observed. There's been an executive order banning certain public gatherings. As I speak to you, people cannot congregate at beaches. People cannot go to cinemas. In fact, they are closed and all of that. So that is the context in which you ought to put all of this. But specifically, when it comes to Fix Mother Ghana or Fix the Country, which is that hashtag that has been trending for over a week now, people are citing the fact that last year, the Electoral Commission compiled a new voters register in the midst of the pandemic. That campaigning occurred before December 2020, in the midst of the pandemic. And that again, elections were held in the midst of the pandemic. In fact, there have been government organized gatherings in the course of the pandemic. And so some people feel that this is just an attempt to use the law to gag people, to prevent people from pouring out on the street. So that is the context you ought to look at when you're considering this. Now, in terms of barring the protest, Ruby Ayite, who is a justice of the High Court, actually delivered that verdict. It was an ex parte injunction. And one thing that ought to be taken note of here is that per the law, such injunctions as was granted by Ruby Ayite, the High Court justice, should not be granted. In fact, the law now, as it is, states that such injunctions cannot be sought ex parte. But that is exactly what happened when the police service, together with its lawyer, sought this injunction from the High Court. And the conveners of, Fix the Country have been very upset at that development, because for them, it is the law being flouted by a justice of the court. There have been some calls for the head of the justice of the court. There have been calls for her to be removed, among other things. That is yet to happen. So that is the current situation. But situating the conversation further, yesterday the protest was supposed to be held. It was not held. The organizers said that they were going to try to abide by what the court had said, though even the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, had stated that there were problems with that ruling of the court and that indeed such an injunction cannot exceed 10 days. Again, let me explain. The High Court Justice had basically said that the conveners of Fix the Country were barred from protesting not just yesterday, the 9th of May, but that indeed they were barred from carrying it out on any other day till the order banning public gatherings, which I have explained to you is an executive order by the president himself, is lifted. What this means is that this is some sort of perpetual injunction, which in itself creates manifold problems. Legal luminaries in Ghana have said that that is problematic, and that is the current situation. Maybe you'd like to know about why exactly people are protesting, if that is something else you have on the chopping board.
Ask you just very quickly, now the protest has moved online, what are the citizens asking for, and is the government listening?
All right, so the citizens basically are asking for the basic amenities of life. They are saying they voted for this administration and they want to see good roads, for example. Again, to put it into context, in this first quarter of the year, about 1,000 people have died in road crashes in Ghana, part of it owing to bad roads. There is corruption, or at least a high perception of corruption in Ghana. People are complaining about that. People are complaining about high utility charges. People are complaining about fuel prices that are hiking. In recent times, about 9 pesos added to the price of fuel. People are complaining about galamsey, illegal small-scale mining. So this is a bara, just a brief bit about some of what people are complaining about.
All right.
And they've taken the matter on social media, and there's still a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, there's still going to be a lot of talk about it. But we'd like to thank you, Benjamin Akapo, for joining us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
As we end the program today, over 100 photographers have visited a low-income neighborhood in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, to create portraits for the community. Organizers say it's an initiative aimed at spreading hope amid this coronavirus pandemic.
Hadiza Daan is all smiles as her neighbors cheer at the entrance of her home in Abuja. The 80-year-old farmer stares at the portrait with joy, an emotion she says she's not felt since the loss of her farm produce last year due to storage deficiencies and transportation hurdles. Dan says the picture will help people remember her.
I am very, very happy with the picture, and I know that my grandchildren will look at the picture in future and be telling people that is their grandmother. A lot of our children being born now won't recognize me in future, but through this picture, they will know who their grandmother was and what she looked like.
Her portrait was taken, printed and presented to her with a letter of hope by a budding photographer, Belumi Davis. He's one of the 100 photographers that took part in the event. The project is an initiative under the Unabashed Creativity Foundation, which its founders describe as a community of creative professionals using photography as a tool for social change.
You go happy when you look at your baby, you go happy.
Smile, smile. Look at that.
Look at that guy.
This whole project came about from a core passion to impact the community, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. A whole lot of families have been distressed. A lot of people have been weakened by the impacts of the COVID, businesses disturbed and all. And what we thought about is to give hope. So about 100 photographers from all around the country, we brought them together with the vision to inspire them.
Over 1,000 residents of Papi community had their portraits taken. The photographers were separated into groups for the one-day event. Each group showcased their selection, and the best of the best was awarded by a panel of judges.
They're all about the narrative we create. And for us, I think the zeal has consumed us more than tribe, ethnicity, or anything. Creativity is one of the ways where we can bring Nigeria together and we can bring Africa together. hardly do I see creatives saying, oh, you are from the north, oh, you are from the south. No. In fact, the energy of creativity consumes you that you don't even know where anybody is from. And no matter what, you can't even succeed as a creative person if you don't join different cultures.
The organizer hopes to have the unabashed village opened in a few months. He says the funds it generates will be used to fund projects combining the arts and poverty alleviation.
That's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.